The next day, Sid enjoyed the day's vibe by taking a hot bath. When Sid enters the bathing pool, it turns out Alexia is also there, who has been bathing there for a few minutes. She was surprised to see Sid in the city of Lindbergh. Then they started chatting with each other. Alexia occasionally looks embarrassed when she looks at Sid's sword between his legs. Alexia is grateful because Sid's wound that he received at the academy back then has healed. She is here because Alexia was invited as a guest at the goddess trial, and she is also investigating a case in the city of Lindbergh. While Sid reasoned that his friend asked him to this city because there was a goddess trial event. Alexia also tells Sid that the fairy tales in this town are very strange. Even Alexia just realized that someone suddenly killed the archbishop last night. Alexia forces Sid to join the Crimson Order, but Sid refuses. They were silent for a few minutes. Then Alexia says that Sid doesn't need to always stare at her boobs. Sid also says that Alexia has to stop her gaze, which is always on Sid's Excalibur sword. Then Alexia belittles Sid's Excalibur because it looks like nothing. Even Alexia also likens Excalibur Sid to a limp earthworm without strength. Upon hearing that, Sid immediately displayed his Excalibur in great pride. Alexia shouldn't judge things from the outside. If this Excalibur is inserted into the right sheath, the miracle and power will surely be felt.
どういう意味を
輝く刃を解き放ち混沌の園へ旅立つだろう。
After that, Alexia heads to the church to confirm the situation there. But unfortunately, one of the church officials named Nelson ordered Alexia to stop the Crimson Order's monitoring of this event. In fact, the Kingdom of Midgar has been in contact with the city of Lindbergh for a long time to support the goddess trial event every year. But today, the church would take care of everything independently and didn't need the supervision of the Crimson Order. Nelson had also informed the Kingdom of Midgar about this, so the Crimson Order had to comply with the church's decision. After all, Alexia could also just relax and enjoy this event in the guest seat of the goddess trial event without thinking about any problems. After hearing that, Alexia was irritated that the Crimson Order's investigation hit a weird roadblock. However, she also must not act rashly to maintain the relationship between the Kingdom of Midgar and the city of Lindbergh. After Alexia dressed up so pretty, she immediately attended the goddess trial. So did Sid become an ordinary person, already sitting between the viewers. It turns out that Beta is also disguised as Natsume in a very sexy dress. Rose was also there and was very happy to wait for a moment at this event. In the goddess trial, Alexia doesn't like Beta's existence because she always attracts people's attention with her big boobs. Alexia is jealous because her boobs are not as big as Beta's. On the other hand, Beta also directly gives Alexia a cynical look. Beta is annoyed with her because Alexia always approached Sid when she was at the academy. According to the Beta, Alexia took advantage of Midgar's royal princess status just to get Sid. A cheap girl like Alexia won't be able to make Sid fall in love with her. But suddenly, Alexia steps on Beta's foot with her heels. Alexia feels belittled because she thought Beta was proud of her boobs. Well, it's actually just a misunderstanding. Then Nelson will replace the previous archbishop to host today's goddess trial. Nelson immediately uses sacred land magic to create a barrier, and the goddess trial begins. Everyone has the right to participate and must register before this event. I'll explain the system of the goddess trial. The goddess trial is a battle between adventurers, citizens, knights, or anyone else against a spirit that will be summoned from the magic of the sacred land. Everyone can summon anyone from the sacred land based on the tales that happened in the past. The summoned spirit is also on the same level as the person who summoned the spirit. Several years ago, a swordsman named Venom managed to summon the hero Olivier. That means Venom's strength is on par with the hero Olivier. But not everyone can summon spirits because their strength is too weak and cannot be matched by the spirits of the past. If someone has succeeded in summoning the spirit of the past, they must fight until one of them loses. Anyone who wins against the spirit can also get a medal as an award for this goddess trial event. That's all the explanation of the goddess trial system. Now, I want to continue the story. Sid wonders why Alpha isn't here, even though she was the one who told Sid to come to the goddess trial. Sid also makes up his delusional story during the goddess trial. Sid wants to do something cool at this event. Even he also wanted to challenge everyone in the arena. But Sid won't do that because he only wants to be an extra character in this episode. But Sid also hopes there is one moment to satisfy Sid's heart from the boredom of watching the goddess trial.
古代の戦士を呼び出せたのはアンネローゼって人だけか。
The day was night, and the goddess trial was about to end. Then the commentator said the last challenger who would close today's event was Sid Kageno from Midgar Academy. Everyone was surprised because a student would try to summon the spirits of the past. Sid is also surprised because he never registered himself for this event. And Sid remembered one thing. Most likely, this was behavior from the person who had headed to Linderm with him. She is Rose. It turns out that she had secretly registered Sid's name on today's event. She wanted everyone to know that Sid would be her future husband. If Sid had shown the same determination as the Midgar Academy festival back then, Rose's father would have approved of Rose and Sid's marriage. Then Sid immediately disguised himself as a shadow, and Shadow Garden's plan slightly deviated from what had been set out in Beta's book yesterday.
まさかシャドウ？一体何のつもりで？
Everyone is surprised that Shadow is at the goddess trial, but no one knows that Shadow is Sid Kageno. Rose also remains ignorant of Shadow's identity. Then Shadow immediately summoned the spirit of the past from the magic of the sacred land, and it turned out that the one summoned was someone who could destroy this world.
我らが解き放つ聖域に眠りし古代の記憶を
俺の力を過信した愚かさをせいぜい悔やむがよい
古代の戦士が現れる。
なぜだわしは動かしておらんぞ
She is Aurora, the Witch of Calamity. Beta says Aurora is the most dangerous witch because of her extraordinary strength. Even many world destruction disasters were caused by Aurora. But Aurora summoned now was only a memory from a past story from the sacred land. Alexia and Rose just found out about Aurora's story and figure. Then Beta said that the tales of the past were still unproven. But Beta is still looking for more information about Aurora from Nelson. Beta deliberately seduces Nelson so he can tell her everything about Aurora. Beta reasoned that she wanted to add references for the next novel volume. Nelson is willing to tell Beta about Aurora, and he also says that Shadow is unlucky today. Shadow may die because his opponent is the strongest witch in the past. But Alexia refutes Nelson's words. According to Alexia, if the magic of the sacred land considers Shadow to be equal to Aurora in strength, it means that Shadow also has the power to destroy the world. On the other hand, Shadow felt a fighting aura that matched Aurora's. Shadow is happy to be fighting against her, because Shadow can feel the satisfaction of fighting tonight.
だからバイオレットさん、あなたと話せて嬉しいんだ。嬉しいよ、バイオレットの瞳の君。
粘るようですが実力の差は歴然の様子どうやら私の言った通りのようですな
それこそが戦いだ。
とも届いていないですよね。
それを読み切り、互いにより良い回答を重ね合う。ええ、そうね。
Aurora was defeated by Shadow. Everyone was surprised that Shadow could defeat the strongest witch in the past. Then suddenly, one of the sacred land gates opened because it acknowledged and answered Shadow's power. Soon, the truth about the past fairy tales will be revealed through the gates of this sacred land.
シャドウ、あなたはやはり。
On the other hand, Sid was pleased because he could deceive the people at the goddess trial. Sid believes they are only focused on the shadow fight and don't care about Sid Kageno's figure. When Sid wanted to leave there, suddenly the gate of the sacred land appeared in front of him. Sid was confused by this gate because he didn't know the situation. Then Sid tries to leave, but the gate of the sacred land keeps following him. Sid thinks he couldn't return to the inn because this gate always followed him. Because of that, Sid will enter the gate to solve the problem that occurred. At the goddess trial event, everyone was surprised because this sacred land gate had appeared for the first time in this event. Nelson was surprised that the sacred land answered Shadow's power. Then Alexia and Rose don't understand what Nelson means because it's their first time seeing the gate of this sacred land. Alexia had heard stories that the sacred land gate was inside the church. Then Nelson explained that the gate of the sacred land has 3 types: the uninvited gate, the call or meeting gate, and the welcoming gate. The church doesn't know what kind of gate appears at this goddess event, because the sacred land gate automatically appears and responds to the power possessed by Shadow. But Nelson will soon be closing this gate and forced to stop today's event. Then Alpha and the Shadow Garden members appeared there. Shadow Garden didn't allow Nelson to close the sacred land's gate. Epsilon had also gone against the other church parties, and Nelson had no one else to protect him. Then Alpha says Alexia and Rose shouldn't act rashly and must watch what will happen. After saying that, Alpha and Delta stepped into the sacred land's gate. Rose asked about Shadow Garden's intentions and goals tonight, but Epsilon didn't answer. She said Alexia and Rose only needed to pay attention to this incident. Epsilon will also force Nelson to enter the sacred land's gate. The other Shadow Garden members also pretend to threaten to kill Beta so that Alexia and Rose don't do anything. But suddenly, Nelson summons Venom warriors to kill Epsilon. But Venom's slash only cut into Epsilon's slime boobs. Then Epsilon was angry because her pride as a woman with the most perfect body than Beta was simply destroyed by Venom. She quickly reattached her perfect boobs with the slime's magic power and killed Venom. Afterward, Epsilon immediately led Nelson into the sacred land gate. Likewise, the Shadow Garden members pretended to kidnap Beta and bring her to the gate of the sacred land. Seeing this, Rose also stepped there. Likewise, as a Crimson Order member, Alexia immediately entered the gate of the sacred land. She wanted to know what was happening in Shadow Garden's true purpose. Afterward, Alexia reasons that she tripped and fell with Rose earlier, so she accidentally entered the gate of this sacred land. Then Alpha didn't care about that, and she allowed Alexia and Rose to join in knowing this hidden historical truth of the past. This information may be useful to Alexia and Rose as they have no idea what is happening and who the Diabolos cult is. Alpha and the members of the Shadow Garden had been investigating the Diabolos cult for a long time, and today was the day they witnessed, in reality, all of the past histories that the people said were just a fairy tale. This sacred land is the remnants of hero Olivier's memories from when she defeated the Diabolos demon. For the Diabolos cult, they called the sacred land Sanctuary. The tale also says that the demon Diabolos' left arm was sealed here, as Alexia and Rose had known for a long time. The statue of the hero Olivier in the city of Lindberm is fake because it is a man. The original Olivier hero was a girl, and Alpha also showed her true face in front of Nelson, Alexia, and Rose. Alpha's face is very similar to the hero Olivier because she is a descendant of Olivier, and was used as experimental material for the Diabolos cult as a child. This could prove that the truth about the past can be revealed. Then Alexia and Rose are shocked after knowing that fact. Meanwhile, Nelson doesn't believe Alpha is alive and manages to escape the Diabolos cult's experiments. According to Nelson, Alpha's blood is unsuitable for the revival of the Demon King Diabolos. I added this flashback scene from Part 2 or Episode 2 when Alpha was in the form of rotting meat, and Sid Kagano saved Alpha. Alpha said that the Shadow Garden's current existence must make it difficult for the Diabolos cult to continue their experiments. Then Alpha activated magic in this sanctuary to reveal the truth about past history through hero Olivier's memories. There used to be a big war that resulted in many soldiers being victims of payment. Alexia, Rose, the members of Shadow Garden, and the audience of this anime will find out the truth behind the tale of the past.
おとぎ話の世界に旅立ちましょう。オリビエ！ここは古の記憶と魔人の怨念が眠る墓場。行き場をなくした記憶が封じ込められた。
At the same time, Sid meets Aurora again, and they can talk to each other. Sid asks, "Are you called and told me to come here?" Then Aurora replied that she didn't really mean it like that, and Aurora really enjoyed the previous battle. Sid was also happy because he could fight someone as strong as Aurora. Aurora admits that Sid is the strongest person and even hopes that Sid was born when Aurora is still alive. Then Aurora asked why Sid could be in this sanctuary. Sid explains that a gate has suddenly appeared before him and always follows him everywhere. Then Sid wants to know how to get out of sanctuary, but Aurora doesn't know how to get out of there either. Aurora in front of Sid was just a memory left from the sanctuary. Because of that, Sid will leave there to find his own way. But Aurora grumbles because Sid has no heart. He should untie Aurora, who is being held captive like this. Then Sid immediately untied Aurora and apologized because he thought Aurora was doing physical training like Sid did.
斬新ね。さて、私たちの目的は一致しているわ。ざっと1000年ぶりの自由ね。
Then Aurora invites Sid to find a way out of this sanctuary together. Sid can return to his world, and Aurora can escape the sanctuary's memory seal. Aurora gives Sid a hint: if they can destroy the sanctuary's magic core, they can be free from here, and sanctuary will also be destroyed. Aurora wouldn't mind if this sanctuary were destroyed. After all, her form here was a memory from a past battle. But this place seals anyone's magic power. When someone uses magic, Sanctuary will absorb the magical power. Then Sid didn't mind that because he could destroy anything if he wanted to. Aurora is happy because Sid is a man who can be relied on. In my opinion, Aurora is also a little interested in Sid because she has always teased him.
そういえば解放されたらどうするの？
消えてなくなるわ。
Then they arrived at a laboratory where the Diabolos cult was experimenting and found a child crying alone. It turned out that she was Aurora when she was a child.
泣いても何も変わらないわ。
On the other hand, Alpha and the others were also in Olivier's memories while in the experimental laboratory. In the past, the Diabolos cult gathered orphan children as experimental materials and guinea pigs. Many children died during the experiment because the Diabolos cult gave them demon cells. But some girls were still alive because their blood cells were compatible with it. So some of these girls have powers on par with demons. One of them is Olivier. The tales of the past were deliberately warped into another story because the Diabolos cult had a goal. After Olivier attained great strength, the Diabolos cult deliberately gave Olivier a task to defeat and sever the Demon King Diabolos' left arm. Olivier carried out the task because the Diabolos cult was toying with her with the word peace. Olivier believes that when she defeats the Demon Lord Diabolos, the world will become peaceful and comfortable for humans to live in. Then Olivier's memories of the past battle began to open. After Olivier managed to cut Demon Lord Diabolos' left arm, it could still attack the researchers from the Diabolos cult. Then several other researchers quickly used an ancient artifact and sealed the Demon Lord Diabolos' left arm. The truth of the Diabolos cult's goal is to get even more powerful demon cells from that left arm. After they researched the left arm of the Demon Lord Diabolos, they concocted medicine to significantly increase their strength and be on par with the demons. This medicine was the same as what Orba and Xanon used, but the medicine had too strong a side effect, and the Diabolos cult didn't want that. Then another of Olivier's memories came flooding back. In the end, the Diabolos cult created medicine with pure power from the blood cells of the Diabolos demon lord's left arm. The name of the medicine is the Drip of Diabolos. This drip has extraordinary power and can create eternal life for those who consume them. One of the people who took medicine was Nelson. It turns out that Nelson was also in on the experiment, and he is part of the Diabolos cult. But they still couldn't refine the drug. They needed blood cells from the hero's descendant, or someone else's that matched Diabolos' blood cells. Therefore, the Diabolos cult's experiment's still continuing now. I added this flashback scene when Claire was kidnapped by Orba and Alexia was kidnapped by Xanon. Diabolos drip will lose its effect if they don't drink it for a long time. This medicine can only be produced 12 times per year. This has something to do with the Diabolos cult, as they have another structured level higher than the children of Diabolos. It's the Knight of Rounds. Nelson was one of them, and he occupied the 11th seat position out of 12 members. Each member consumes a Diabolos drip annually. Alexia and Rose finally find a detailed explanation about the Diabolos cult and the truth about that tale. Whereas Nelson laughed because he didn't expect that Shadow Garden could investigate the Diabolos cult in detail. Nelson immediately summoned his demonic powers, but unfortunately, Delta killed Nelson first. Delta couldn't wait to fight every enemy she saw. Delta doesn't want more stories like this, but Alpha gave Delta a sinister look and was angry at her for being too reckless. Then Delta apologized and begged Alpha not to confiscate Delta's snack ration for today. Shortly after, Nelson revived and activated the defense of the sanctuary. This resulted in Epsilon and several other members being separated from Alpha, Alexia, Beta, Delta, and Rose. Then Nelson said he would make Shadow Garden regret entering the Diabolos cult's territory. Then the battle begins.
何かおかしいです。
なるほど。
僕のまあいい。この程度は想定の範囲内だ。
Delta really enjoys this battle because the opponents are limitless. Meanwhile, Alexia is confused by Delta's ability. It was like a wild animal thirsting for prey, and Delta's swordsmanship was very different from the other members of Shadow Garden. Meanwhile, Nelson is surprised that Delta can still attack with her strength. The magic power would have been completely absorbed if someone had used it in this sanctuary, but Delta can still attack Nelson's clone continuously.
ねえ、あれって本当にシャドウの仲間なのかしら。
On the other hand, Aurora and Sid are still walking through the memory fragments in the sanctuary. Before long, Olivier's other memories reopened, and they were transported to the war site I explained earlier. Starting from here, Sid did something to his body parts to prepare for this sanctuary battle. Aurora took Sid around there, and they saw little Aurora crying again. The adult Aurora will kill her to find other memories to escape the sanctuary. Luckily, Sid managed to save Aurora from the zombies. If the current Aurora dies, Sid will return to where he first met her. Because of that, Sid fights all the zombies, but Aurora can't maximize her strength because Sanctuary always absorbs her magic power. Meanwhile, Sid can defend and attack because he has trained hard in battles in the previous world. Sid says that these zombies will never end if Sid and Aurora fight them with physical attacks. So, Sid immediately killed little Aurora to unlock the next memory.
ごめんね。
中心よ。
Then they were in a large room with a sealed door and a sword. Aurora said that this was the sanctuary's core room, and behind the sealed door was the magic core of the sanctuary. At first, Sid wanted to cut the chain of this seal, but he didn't do it because his sword was surely broken. Then Aurora said that there was a text sign on the sword here. This sword can cut the door seal chain, but Sid already knows that this sword cannot be released. Sid had read a lot of novels that had stories like this. Only the chosen person can revoke it. But Sid keeps trying to pull out the sword, and another text sign shows that this sword can be pulled out by someone with the blood descendant of a hero. Then Aurora and Sid were silent in this room because there was nothing else they could do. They even play games to pass the time here. On the other hand, Epsilon and the other Shadow Garden members were in a factory hall. Then they meet a zombie who will attack them. When the Shadow Garden members wanted to kill the zombie, Epsilon stopped them suddenly. She could tackle this zombie alone without killing it. Epsilon explained this while searching for all the information on the sanctuary. Sanctuary is the memory of Olivier's past. However, in her memories, there were also various things about the members of Shadow Garden. Epsilon and many members of Shadow Garden were the results of the Diabolos cult's failed experiments. Olivier's memory is a memory for them too. Sid and Seven Shadows always save Shadow Garden members who share the same fate. If Sid hadn't saved them when they were kids, they would never have survived the Diabolos cult's demon cell experiments. Maybe they are also still possessed by the demon until now. Then they immediately used the camera created by Etta with the information she got from Sid. Some Shadow Garden members also started to lose their magic power due to being absorbed by the sanctuary, including Epsilon's boobs.
何かあったかしら。何も。
At the same time, Delta was still going on a rampage to kill Nelson's clones many times. Before long, the sanctuary's defenses disappear as Nelson's true form is found. They return to the starting place where the statue of the hero Olivier was. Nelson couldn't believe that his real body could be found among the 100 clones he had previously created. When Alpha wanted to kill Nelson, he suddenly summoned the hero Olivier to fight Shadow Garden. After Olivier appeared in front of them, Alpha found out that Olivier had been completely controlled by the Diabolos cult. Delta still wanted to fight because she was dissatisfied with the previous battle. Before long, Epsilon came there to give the report. All investigations and information have been obtained by the other Shadow Garden members. After hearing that, Alpha, the Shadow Garden members, Alexia, and Rose will leave from there. Nelson challenged them since they had escaped from a situation like this. Then Alpha glanced cynically at Nelson. Alpha allowed Nelson to go after Shadow Garden at any time. After all, Shadow Garden already knew about the Sanctuary's defense and magic. Then Shadow Garden invites Alexia and Rose to get out of there. Alpha also asked Delta to leave, but Delta showed a facial reaction that still wanted to fight until satisfied. Because of that, Alpha threatened Delta like this.
Delta.
Not long after, Nelson received information from Sanctuary that someone else had entered the main room. Because of that, Nelson took Olivier there immediately to kill them. On the other hand, Aurora and Sid were still chatting. Sid is curious about Aurora's condition when the Sanctuary is destroyed. Then Aurora said she would be released from this memory, so Sid didn't need to worry. After hearing this, Sid told Aurora had to wait for the right moment.
待つ
もう少し待ってればなんとかなるからね。
Sid is very confident in overcoming this problem. According to the stories in the novels that Sid had read, when someone was in this situation, the main villain would appear to kill anyone who bothered him or her. Sid's guess was correct. Nelson and Olivier had arrived there. Sid is confused because Olivier's face is so similar to Alpha's, but he doesn't mind that and will fight Olivier now. Aurora warns Sid that Olivier has extraordinary powers, but Sid calms Aurora down because he won't be defeated easily. Nelson was very annoyed that an ordinary person like Sid was still alive after taking all the attacks from Olivier. Sid says that this fight is too monotonous and not fun. Olivier is heartless because she died long ago. Then Aurora asked Nelson to stop the fight. Aurora didn't want to hurt Sid because he was caught in this situation. Aurora's current form is just a memory, and she will do something so that Sid can escape the Sanctuary. Nelson says Aurora should work together to make the Diabolos cult easier. If Aurora is willing, Nelson will release Sid from this Sanctuary. Aurora doesn't understand Nelson's words, but she will carry out his orders so Sid can get out of there. Then Sid is annoyed because this conversation is too boring, and Sid doesn't want to be considered inferior to the power of a dead girl. He also told Aurora not to follow stupid orders from Nelson. Nelson was enraged that a weak person like Sid dared to say such a thing. Then he immediately ordered Olivier to kill Sid now. Olivier immediately stabs Sid, and this makes Aurora very surprised. But suddenly, Nelson is surprised that Sid is still alive when he is stabbed in the stomach by Olivier. Then Sid says humans will live as long as vital organs such as the heart or head remain. Sid is going to fight Nelson now because Olivier is gone. But Nelson still had other copies of Olivier, and Sid would surely be dead by now fighting against this many attacks.
時間切れだ。
アーティファクト。いや、まさかそれはスライム。
遊びは終わりか。さっきより動きが単調だ。これじゃあただのかかし。
Finally, Sid opened his right eye, which surprised Nelson because Sid could use magic in this sanctuary. He suspected that Sid was wearing an artifact that could store magic power. Then Sid explained that Sanctuary was indeed a place to absorb magic. Due to that, Sid amplified the magic in his own body so that the Sanctuary could not absorb it. It is a very easy mindset to solve this problem. Now the game time is up, and it's Sid's turn to attack Nelson. Even if Nelson attacks Sid with all of Olivier's copies, it won't be able to defeat him since Sid can destroy anything.
これが人に許された力なの。
After that, Sid was trapped in a black room. It turns out that the core of Sanctuary's magic is in that arm. When Sid wanted to destroy it, he suddenly woke up in Aurora's lap. Aurora said that she had lied about what she said since they first met. Aurora actually calls Sid to save her from the Sanctuary. All this time, she wished to disappear from this world. Aurora thanks Sid for giving her precious memories, from the fight in the goddess trial to their journey in the Sanctuary. Aurora warns Sid that one day, he must kill Aurora's true form when they meet in battle.
私を
On the other hand, the other Shadow Garden members didn't expect Sid to cast his magic again in the Sanctuary. All the information there was also gone, and Shadow Garden had to look for more information about Diabolos. Then Epsilon reported the information on the Sanctuary to Alpha. It turns out that Aurora is a Diabolos demon. Then Shadow Garden knew that the Diabolos cult surely aiming for the festival in Midgar next. So, they had to prepare another plan to solve this problem.
シャドウ様に報告は
不要よ。彼は全てを分かっている。
On the other hand, Alexia, Beta, and Rose are exploring the forest because the whole town is already filled with water. Alexia says she's annoyed that she can't figure out what's happening. Rose also feels the same way as Alexia. Since the events in the city and academy of Midgar, the Diabolos cult and Shadow Garden organizations have been fighting without their knowledge. Because of that, Alexia decides to form a group. Alexia could use her position as princess of the Midgar Kingdom to obtain information. Rose can also do the same because she is the princess of the Oriana Kingdom. Meanwhile, Beta is a writer who can take advantage of her profession. After all, they had to keep this country safe, especially for someone they loved. A few days later, someone offered to buy land from the Begalta Kingdom to Gamma. I'll call him Terry, but Gamma said she was helping with a renovation project in the city of Lindbergh. Then Terry said he would give Gamma a low price to open a sub-business there. Before long, New informed Gamma that the investigation in the kingdom of Begalta was over. After hearing this, Gamma agreed to Terry's offer and would open a sub-business there. Even Gamma would renovate the city in the Begalta kingdom if Terry provided more land for Gamma's company to buy. Then the business strategy of Shadow Garden members begins.
不動産バブルが
On the other hand, Alpha saw the Shadow Garden members relaxing in one of the headquarters rooms. Then she remembered the old memories of when the members of Shadow Garden had the first small base. Sid has taught Alpha about building comfortable house designs for the members. Alpha and many Shadow Garden members have been given extraordinary knowledge from Sid. Even the 7 shadows or the core members of Shadow Garden were directly given overwhelming power by him. 7 shadows consists of Alpha, Beta, Delta, Epsilon, Eta, Gamma, and Zeta. Then Alpha also worked hard in the past to train all Shadow Garden members to fight. More than 600 people have already joined Shadow Garden and dedicated their lives only to Sid. Of course, they were the girls he had saved in the past. They even really love Sid, but Sid doesn't care about the feeling of love. Sid is only concerned with his Chunibyo delusions of looking cool in every battle or problem-solving moment. Before long, Gamma reports to Alpha that the Prime Minister of the Oriana Kingdom, Doem, is on his way to the Kingdom of Midgar. Because of that, Shadow Garden members had to prepare other plans for the next battle. At night, Alexia reports the events in the city of Lindbergh to Iris. Alexia orders Iris to conduct further investigations in Lindbergh and combines the information about the 2 previous incidents in Midgar. That way, they could carry out their attacks when the Diabolos cult reappeared. Then Iris said that she had already suggested this to her father, the king of the Midgar Kingdom. But sadly, the king doesn't want to do anything first, because the kingdom of Midgar doesn't know who the villain between the 2 organizations is. Therefore, the kingdom of Midgar must remain silent and focus on the next event, the Festival of the God of War, and the victor of the festival will investigate the city of Lindbergh. After all, the Oriana Kingdom will also celebrate this event, and the Oriana King may also come. Iris must still obey what King Midgar has planned. Alexia says that it's likely that the Shadow Garden and the Diabolos cult will be planning something beyond their reach. But Iris says that Alexia doesn't need to worry. Anyone who will mess up the festival Iris can handle because she is one of the strongest swordsmen in the world. According to Iris, the power shared by the 2 organizations must have been obtained through ancient artifacts. An example is the power that Shadow and Alpha showed at that time. On the other hand, Rose was practicing her sword as usual to strengthen herself. She became a swordsman like this thanks to someone who had saved her when she was a child. Rose remembered the way he fought and the beauty of his sword swings. When Shadow appeared at the Midgar Academy incident, Rose felt she recognized him from how he swung his sword. Rose must have even greater strength to solve the problems in the Oriana Kingdom. While Rose was still continuing her sword practice, something suddenly happened. Finally, the God of War festival was about to be held, and many adventurers and citizens were excited about this festival. They will show their power because this festival is attended by great people from all cities. Sid, watching the crowds in the city of Midgar, also wanted to join this festival of the God of War. So he, a Chunibyo, imagines when he enters the festival while hiding his true power. Sid will be a side character by pretending to be weak until his opponent belittles him. After that, Sid beats the opponent so quickly that the audience is shocked while thinking, "Who is that person? Why can weak people fight like that?" This is suitable entertainment for Sid because he can have as much fun as his imagination allows. Then Sid immediately went to the Shadow Garden headquarters to meet with Gamma. Sid asks her to help hide Sid's identity because he will participate in the God of War festival. Gamma is curious why Sid wants to take part in this festival, but Sid couldn't answer Gamma's question and asked her not to ask anything about this. In Gamma's mind, she was sure that Sid must have already known what the Diabolos cult was planning to do, so Gamma complied with Sid's wishes and prepared all sorts of things to change his appearance. Eda has also prepared advanced technology to change the appearance using slime enchanted with magic. Of course, this advanced technology comes from the knowledge possessed by Sid. Then Nu gave a list of men who could later be used as references for Sid's facial appearance. Sid says that he wants to be a weak and cowardly man. Then Nu and Gamma suggested a man named Jimina Senate, who had been abandoned by his family long ago. Jimina is very weak because he can't be a swordsman. No one knows Jimina's identity until now because he has died. Then Sid agreed to Nu and Gamma's suggestion because Jimina had a cowardly face with weak characteristics. Finally, Sid changed his appearance, and this mask can be removed and attached again using magic power. Now, he has disguised the weakest and has no will to live. Sid immediately put on cheap armor and weapons to increase his weakest value. After that, he immediately went to the God of War festival. When Sid is heading to the festival for name registration, he meets a girl named Annerose from the kingdom of Begalta. She was also present at the Goddess Trial Festival and won against the summoned spirit. Annerose warned Sid not to participate in the festival because he will die. She said this for his own good. But Sid doesn't care what Annerose says, and she has to learn how to judge others as a whole, not just by appearances.
弱いけど実は影の実力者ムーブができるなんてやっぱりこの姿が正解だ
毎回おめえみてえなやつが場をしらけさせるんだ
A big man named Quint also warned Sid not to participate in this festival. The weakest person, like Sid, couldn't win, and he better go home now. After hearing those words, Sid deliberately provoked Quint and belittled him. As a result, Quint punches Sid and teaches him a valuable lesson. In Sid's mind, hand-to-hand combat in this world was very different from that on Earth. He can defeat Quint in seconds without using magic power. But Sid deliberately didn't do this so that he would be belittled by other people according to his delusion's plan.
見た目通り雑魚じゃねえか
それはやめておきなさい。見過ごせなくなるわ。
Annerose stopped their fight, and Quint left immediately. Annerose says she can't stand this mess and will heal Sid's wounds. But she was surprised because Sid was not injured after taking repeated punches from Quint. Then Sid says he hasn't felt pleasure in a long time and tastes his own blood. After hearing that, Annerose became curious about Sid's figure, and she also introduced herself.
アンネロゼフシアナス。
地味な青年
After Jimina's name registration at the festival, Sid changes his appearance again and buys a burger at McDonald's. When he was on his way home, Sid met Rose, who was looking everywhere for Sid. Then they chatted for a while by the city fountain. Lately, Rose also often buys food at McDonald's with Beta and Alexia. Even though they often fight, their relationship becomes closer. Then Rose told him about her engagement with Doem, which will be held soon. Rose became a swordsman of her own free will. But swordsmanship in the Oriana Kingdom was greatly looked down upon because they highly valued the arts. However, Rose still goes through with her wish and wants to be stronger because there used to be a cool person who saved her. She also hopes that, no matter what happens in the future, Sid must still trust Rose. After hearing Rose's will to be strong and her hopes, Sid can trust Rose no matter what she does in the future.
あげるよ。
The preliminary round festival has started, and many people are betting on who will win each match, including Sid's friend Hiyoro. He always collects data on every fighter so he can win bets and get a lot of money. Before long, Goldoh Kinmac, a fighter who has never lost in this festival, appears behind Hiyoro. Goldoh was very interested in the fighter data collected by him, while Hiyoro has been a big fan of Goldoh since long ago. Then Sid permission to defecate first to Hiyoro, but he just wanted to disguise himself as Jimina because his part match had already started. Today he will fight Gonzalez, a strong fighter with a big body. But when the game started,
勝者地味な青年
パワー28の地味な青年のこの上昇金利、その対戦相手にかけること。明日の第4試合。
everyone was surprised that a weakling like Jimina could beat Gonzalez so quickly without doing anything. They do not accept the results of this match because they do not earn money from gambling results. On the other hand, it turns out that Annerose saw Sid's match today. She noticed the movement Sid made. He only fights Gonzalez using his bare hands without a sword so quickly that no one knows his movements. But Annerose also doubted Sid's move. She didn't know if Sid hit Gonzalez once or twice. Before long, Sid changed his usual appearance and felt immense pleasure. He heard people's annoyed responses and wondered who was Jimina.
空前じゃないかもって顔をしている。
だから軍資金を
いい反応だ。
After that, Sid has lunch with Hiyoro at McDonald's. Hiyoro said that Sid also had to participate in the fighter gambling because he got so much money. He had collected a lot of fighter data, and his predictions were almost all correct. In fact, he also wants Sid to add to his gambling money so he can win many times over. Of course, Sid refuses because he always wanted a lot of money to satisfy his chunibyo. Then Sid asks Hiyoro, who is the main candidate to become the biggest money bet with a high chance of winning. Hiyoro answered that Iris and Rose are the main candidate for anyone who plays gambling at this festival. Iris has very good magic sword power. She had never lost in this The God of War festival. Rose also has extraordinary abilities and is the only girl who studied swordsmanship in the Oriana Kingdom. There is one more girl with extraordinary strength. She is a beautiful elf race, and everyone must fall in love with her. Then Sid left to think of his delusional plan to surprise everyone even more. This is also a good thing for the future of Shadow Garden and his role as Shadow, the crime fighter. The next day, suddenly Hiyoro comes to Sid's apartment room to tell him important news. Hiyoro is shocked because Rose suddenly stabbed her fiancé, Doem, yesterday. Now, the Oriana Kingdom's knights are looking for Rose's whereabouts, who disappeared after that incident.
なんで
Beta and Alexia also see the news about Rose. The Oriana Kingdom wanted to settle this internal matter secretly and forbade the Midgar Kingdom from interfering. Rose is a Midgar Academy student and she should be punished here. But if the punishment is carried out, the relationship between the two countries, Oriana and Midgar, will become even more chaotic because Oriana has forbidden Midgar. Rose's fiancé is Doem, a prime minister in the kingdom of Oriana. They will strictly punish Rose because her actions have harmed the country. Beta says that Rose definitely hasn't gone far from the Oriana Kingdom. Alexia doesn't understand what Rose is doing, and Alexia's father or the king of Midgar is also just observing this situation. Alexia is already annoyed with her father because he and Iris prefer peace without solving any problems. However, Alexia remains suspicious of the Oriana Kingdom, which does not allow the Midgar Kingdom to interfere. Alexia plans to find and capture Rose first before the Oriana Kingdom does. She wants Rose to tell her what made Rose act like this. Then Beta said that Alexia shouldn't look for Oriana first. They should look for more information and not think to act rashly. Then Alexia scolds Beta and is about to kill her, because Beta deliberately lets this matter take longer and thinks Alexia is stupid. Then Beta pretends to be weak and shows her cute face, so that Alexia doesn't kill her. Alexia says she is very upset because Rose broke their friendship agreement then. Rose acted alone and as if she didn't need friends to solve her problems. Beta says Rose likely doesn't want to get Beta and Alexia involved, because it will worsen the two countries' situation. But Alexia still wants to do what she has in mind because Rose is her friend and Beta. Then Beta decides to find out more about Doem and the Oriana Kingdom. Beta knows Doem has dark rumors behind his rule in the Oriana Kingdom. After hearing that, Alexia will try to discuss this with Iris, her unstable sister, who cannot distinguish between evil and good. After Alexia left, Beta chatted with one of the Shadow Garden members. Beta decides to leak Alexia a bit of information later. Alexia is a stubborn girl, and Beta is very bothered by her behavior. If Alexia could get information from Beta, she would definitely think calmly and not act rashly. Then a Shadow Garden member said Rose was in an underground aqueduct in the city. Rose hid there because the place was very difficult for the knights chasing her. It took a long time to get into the underground aqueduct.
逃走中、胸を押さえる様子を複数回確認。
After Alexia spoke to Iris, Iris rushed to the Oriana Kingdom to discuss this matter. Iris also reported on the security plans for the main War God Festival next week. The Kingdom of Midgar prepared for this because King Oriana and Doem were coming to the festival. But Doem says that King Oriana doesn't need security members from the Kingdom of Midgar. After all, there won't be chaos when the main War God Festival comes later. Then Iris said that the situation in the Oriana Kingdom was very different from the news received by the Midgar Kingdom. Doem said that the news was exaggerated and that the Oriana Kingdom would take matters into their own hands. After all, King Oriana also agreed with Doem's decision. Then Iris felt annoyed and knew there was something strange about King Oriana.
ドエムケツハットの申すようにせよ。姫様のご心労はお察しします。
Then Sid started reading the news about Rose in detail through today's newspaper. Sid just found out that Rose has a fiancé, and this incident really caught Sid's attention. This was crazy for him since Rose was a princess from a kingdom. Sid thinks that Rose might be looking for something. By the way, Sid is watching the qualifiers with his friend, the gambler Hiyoro. He wants Sid to fund this gambling match because the money he will get will be abundant. Of course, Sid ignored his friend. He was focused on cool things as a shadow in this tournament. After that, Sid quietly walked away and disguised himself as Jimina. The next match had already started, but Sid crosses paths with an elf girl, and the elf girl feels that Sid recognizes her little sister. She smelled Sid's scent, similar to that of an elf. Sid says that he has some elf friends. The girl says that she wants Sid to hint which elf girl looks like her. Her sister was very beautiful, sweet, an orphan, and much like the elf girl. When the elf girl opened her hood, Sid was surprised because she looked like Alpha. But Sid purposely didn't tell the elf girl, and suddenly she wanted to stab Sid in the neck. Of course, Sid pretended to be weak as a minor character, as usual. Then the elf girl apologized to Sid, and she wanted to know his name. Elf girl felt Sid was strong, so she attacked him just now. After they got to know each other, it turned out that the elf girl was Beatrix with extraordinary powers. And there was a moment of silence because Beatrix was still holding Sid's hand. She says that Sid has a good hand, and she's sure that Sid will be the strongest person.
驚かせてごめん。
結構強いかな。
On the other hand, it turns out that Annerose and Quint also want to see Jimina's match. They were curious about his strength because Jimina's fight was too short and fast. They admit that Jimina is a great mysterious figure, but they don't know what method he uses to defeat his enemy. Then Quinn guessed that Annerose, a 7 swordsman of Oriana, would be able to figure out what movements Jimina was making. Annerose said that she had discarded the nickname. Annerose said that Jimina uses a speed that normal people cannot see. Even Annerose, who could read the opponent's movements, couldn't see it clearly either. But Annerose noticed that Jimina's right hand was moving very quickly. Then Quinn thought that Jimina was deliberately using a forbidden artifact. Annerose agrees with Quinn's opinion because Jimina's power is still mysterious. He was going to fight Goldoh today, and Annerose was sure she could read Jimina's moves. Goldoh never lost in the God of War match, so he was nicknamed the Unbeaten Legend. But Goldoh didn't want to be called that and called himself the Victorious Golden Dragon. Annerose said that Goldoh was the cowardly knight type. Annerose had met 3 times in previous tournament matches, but Goldoh ran away because he was sure he would lose if he fought Annerose. Goldoh got the nickname Unbeaten Legend because he only wants to fight enemies he can beat. Goldoh is going up against Jimina today, and the nickname Unbeaten Legend is at stake. Goldoh was sure that he would win against Jimina because Jimina looked weak. Goldoh can predict the certainty of victory because he can measure battle power. If Goldoh felt threatened in today's match, he could definitely take his opponents seriously. So far, Goldoh has never been serious about fighting every enemy in a match. When the match started, Goldoh immediately attacked Jimina, but suddenly Jimina's movement was very slow, but Goldoh felt an attack hit him. Goldoh doesn't understand Jimina's strength, and Jimina should be able to beat Goldoh with such a chance. Goldoh felt belittled by Jimina because Jimina's movements were too simple in fighting. Goldoh was angry and started to bring out his true power on Jimina. Of course, the audience was shocked because it was the first time Goldoh had demonstrated this power. Goldoh says that he will give Jimina good memories, but when Goldoh attacks Jimina again, everyone was surprised to see Jimina's very strange way of fighting. Annerose said that Jimina's only movement was cracking his neck and sneezing. Quinn was shocked because there was no way such a fighting style could win this match. But Annerose says that it was Jimina who did that, and this is reality. She saw that Jimina had accidentally cracked his neck and suddenly dodged Goldoh's attack, whereas the last Goldoh's extraordinary attack was defeated by sneezing. Quinn doesn't believe in Annerose's analysis. Dragon magic power can be defeated by just sneezing. According to Annerose, Jimina doesn't look for or analyze other people's weaknesses because he can attack his opponent from anywhere. Then Quinn is very annoyed with Annerose's ridiculous explanation, so Quinn will prove it in the next match. Quinn will definitely reveal Jimina's way of fighting, and Quinn is sure that Jimina is using a forbidden artifact. Annerose was amazed by Jimina because it was the first time she had seen a match like this. Even Annerose was obsessed with this Jimina's fighting style. After Quinn's match against Jimina, of course, Jimina wins ridiculously. The audiences were surprised because Jimina's power was mysterious and strange. If he could defeat multiple enemies like this, it meant that how he fought wasn't just a fluke. Jimina was able to enter the main fight of this god of war, and some audiences also didn't accept Jimina's way of fighting. Some audiences who gamble are also confused about making a choice. In the main match, Iris, Beatrix, and Annerose will be the gamblers' idols, but they also have to consider Jimina's odds as a gambling win later. By the way, Hiyoro is almost bankrupt because his gambling money is almost gone. He has never won and asks Jaga to help fund his gambling. Of course, Jaga, who was in his hometown, refused Hiyoro's request. Then Annerose met Jimina directly. She didn't expect that Jimina would be able to step into the main battle of the God War. Annerose marveled at Jimina's rare ability, but she wasn't going to let Jimina pull off another ridiculous fighting style later. Annerose will win the match against Jimina. After hearing that, Jimina just smiled and left from there. Of course, Annerose stopped Jimina because he didn't respond to Annerose's words. Then Jimina was very happy with Annerose's response, and Jimina said while doing something that made Annerose nervous against him.
遊びは終わりだ。この重りは俺を封じる鎖。
But Annerose remains convinced that she will win and Jimina won't be able to use his previous fighting style.
そうか。あの人、何がしたかったんだろう。
On the other hand, it turns out that the Oriana Knights managed to get into the underground aqueduct. They were still chasing after Rose and fighting with her. Rose was forced to injure one of the knights, and she told the knight to heal the wound as soon as possible. Rose also deliberately didn't attack his vital parts, and Rose immediately left the Oriana Knights' pursuit. The next day, in his room, Sid was thinking about what cool words he would say during the match. Sid was very happy because he made many people curious about Jimina's figure. Not long after, Hiyoro knocked loudly on Sid's door. He had an interesting discussion today, and Sid should listen to it. When Sid opens the door, Hiyoro shows a poster of Rose, who is being wanted by the Oriana Kingdom. Whoever catches her, the Oriana Kingdom will give a very large reward. Hiyoro invites Sid to catch Rose as soon as possible because Hiyoro has no more money. Then Sid pretended to ask, "Didn't you gain much in the previous match?" Hiyoro says that Sid doesn't need to know about that, and no matter what happens, Hiyoro has to earn a lot of money. In Sid's mind, he wants to refuse Hiyoro's invitation because Sid allowed Rose to do whatever she believes. Even Sid is thrilled that Rose's rebellious soul is so brutal, and that's a cool thing. Actually, Sid wanted to witness firsthand how Rose carried out her rebellion. But unfortunately, Sid did not have time to go to the Oriana Kingdom. Not long after, Claire came and wanted to go to Sid's room. Of course, Sid, who saw Claire, immediately changed his outfit and led Hiyoro out through the window. Then Hiyoro says that he and Sid should search for Rose separately so the search can go faster. Sid wants nothing to do with Claire, who is too obsessed with him, so he's going to look for Rose's whereabouts now. Sid is also curious, did Rose manage to escape safely? How are things now? Why did she stab her fiancé? Then Sid suddenly heard a piano playing Beethoven's Sonata No. 14 about moonlight. This is Sid's favorite song and Shadow's best song. Since childhood, Sid has always studied the piano and played many songs. Others always thought Sid was busy practicing the piano to become a pianist. But Sid is actually doing this to fulfill his delusional desires, become a crime-fighting figure behind the shadows without anyone knowing. Sid always imagined this song would be at the back sound in his mind, then fight in cool style in the silence of the night with the moonlight shining. Sid thinks that the piano is the coolest musical instrument because it can adjust to whatever atmosphere is in his imagination. Then Sid wonders, how is there a Beethoven song in this world? Sid suspects that someone else has also reincarnated into this world. But when Sid sees that person,
スライムで持った胸やら足やらはきっちり隠している。ガンマとベータに続きこいつもか。
it turned out that the one playing the song was Epsilon. Then Sid and Epsilon chatted about the piano and the songs Epsilon had played. Epsilon is embarrassed because Sid listened to Epsilon's previous performance live. Moonlight is Epsilon's favorite song Sid has taught her. Thanks to Sid, Epsilon became a great and famous pianist. Many of the songs she created were from songs that Sid had taught her before, starting from Beethoven, Mozart, Frédéric Chopin, etc. Many people have acknowledged the greatness of Epsilon. She was also given many awards from the nobles in the royal city for composing many beautiful songs. Even Epsilon was invited to Oriana's kingdom to work as a pianist. Oriana is a city that respects music more than anything else. After hearing that, Sid was overjoyed because Epsilon also liked the song Moonlight. But the main problem is that Epsilon copied and plagiarized from the famous composers in Sid's previous world. Sid feels guilty about them. In Epsilon's mind, she wants to achieve even higher so that Sid can always pay attention to her. Well, even though Sid doesn't care about feelings of love or anything romantic. Then Sid asks Epsilon about Rose escaping from the Oriana Kingdom. He wanted to know where Rose had gone. Epsilon replied that the Rose issue was being handled by Beta, so Epsilon had nothing to do with it. But Epsilon heard that Rose escaped into the royal city's underground aqueduct. At first, Epsilon wanted to call Beta here, but Sid forbade her because he had already been given enough information from Epsilon. Then suddenly, Sid said this to her.
綺麗なスタイルだね。
Actually, the praise was just to appreciate Epsilon for playing Moonlight so well. Sid remained disinterested in Epsilon, even though her big boobs were filled with slime. When Sid looked at the piano that Epsilon had just played, he suddenly smiled because he had a cool idea for Shadow's role. On the other hand, Alexia and Beta are exploring the royal city's underground aqueduct. Alexia tells Beta that Iris is grateful for the information Beta provided. Alexia also conveys Iris' curiosity to Beta about why the king of Oriana looks empty and strange. He seemed lifeless, his body condition was very pale, and there was a strange smell around him. Then Alexia thought of Doem as someone related to the cult, and Rose was trying to solve the problem alone. Beta says that she and Alexia might be too late since the Diabolos cult is moving ahead of them. Initially, Alexia's father or the king of Midgar forbade Alexia to interfere. But Alexia remains stubborn and wants to help Rose to solve her problem. If Alexia does as her father says, the city of Midgar will surely become the target of the Diabolos cult again. Then Beta asks Alexia, why did you invite me to this place? Alexia says that Rose probably escaped through this place. This place used to be an underground labyrinth that was always used to escape to other places. Many royal families fled through this labyrinth because it could connect to other cities. Then Beta asks Alexia again, how to get out of here. This is a very large giant labyrinth. Alexia replies casually that she will follow the path she walked before. If Beta is scared, it's better to just go home now. After hearing that, Beta tries to be patient because Alexia is stubborn and involves too many other people in her ideas. At the very least, Beta should be able to take care of Alexia, because this is her job as a Shadow Garden member. On the other hand, Rose's body condition was getting worse due to the mark on her chest. The mark has started to spread, and Rose's power is getting weaker. Rose's mind is unstable. Is her action right this time? Or is she just digging her own death pit? But Rose was sure that the problems in the Oriana Kingdom had something to do with the Diabolos cult. She saw her very strange father, and his body condition was pale. Rose also sees Doem's face, which is proved he doing something to her father. Not only Doem but all officials in the Oriana Kingdom. Because of that, Rose wanted to kill Doem and immediately stabbed him. But Rose didn't manage to hit Doem's heart. Then Rose was surrounded by knights and accused of being a mad princess who accidentally stabbed her fiancé, Doem. After that, Rose tried to fight them and escaped into the aqueduct underground of this royal city. She had also heard Doem shout that the king of Oriana would kill the guests of the War God festival later. So Rose had to surrender herself to the Oriana Kingdom to prevent that from happening. Then she realized that the Diabolos cult had secretly infiltrated her kingdom and influenced the king of Oriana. Rose actually wanted to take the situation calmly, but she couldn't do it because her emotions were running high, and King Oriana was the most precious person in her life. Rose didn't know what path she should take next. The war between countries also can't be cancelled if Rose doesn't surrender to the Oriana Kingdom. Then Rose saw the McDonald's burger wrapper that Sid had given her at the time. She was sure that Sid already knew everything that would happen later. Because of that, Sid trusts Rose to do whatever she wants and believes. Then Rose found out that she was currently experiencing demonic possession, as Alpha had shown at that time. So there was nothing she could do anymore, and she wouldn't be able to save her father from the influence of the Diabolos cult.
所詮は悪魔つき。
Suddenly, Rose heard a piano playing Beethoven's Moonlight. Rose followed the sound of the piano, and when she arrived at a place of ruins, turns out it was Sid who had brought the piano from Epsilon's place earlier. He was carrying out his role as Shadow now. Rose was amazed because Shadow's performance was the best performance Rose had ever heard. Then Shadow asked, "What are you doing? Does your battle end here? Do you give up?" Rose replied that she wanted to protect everyone in the city of Oriana, but she couldn't because the Diabolos cult had already dominated the Oriana Kingdom. Rose wanted to fight against the Diabolos cult to save her country. There is a responsibility that Rose has to do as Princess Oriana in the future, but Rose realized that she couldn't do anything. She didn't have the strength to fight them. Then Shadow said that he would give Rose extraordinary powers. If Rose still wanted to continue her fight them with this power. The future of her kingdom will be determined by Rose as Princess Oriana.
そして貴様に戦う意志があることを証明しよう。
すごい。これがシャドウの魔力持ち。これは
真の強さとは力ではなく、そのあり方だ。
シャドウ。彼は闇に差し込む一筋の月光。
On the other hand, Alexia feels an extraordinary magical power, and when she approaches the power, she sees Rose, who wants to get out of there. Then Alexia asks about all the things Rose did in the Oriana Kingdom. But Rose doesn't want to tell Alexia because she doesn't want Alexia to get involved in this. Then Alexia is furious at Rose for treating her like a spectator to the Diabolos cult and Shadow Garden's war. Rose had promised at that time to protect the most precious person together, but Rose broke that promise and wants to solve this problem alone. Rose doesn't respond to Alexia's words. Rose says that she has lost everything and will not involve Alexia in solving cases in the Oriana Kingdom. Then Alexia suddenly attacks Rose because she wants to know the real situation in the Oriana Kingdom. Alexia faints after being defeated by Rose. Rose just found out that Alexia's strength is much stronger when compared to before. Rose entrusts Alexia to Beta because Rose wants to go to solve her kingdom's problems. Then Beta says that she won't stop Rose's actions. Although Rose's suffering was different from the members of Shadow Garden, whatever happens, Rose's goal is the same as Shadow Garden's, eradicating criminals and the Diabolos cult. From here, Rose knows that Beta is a member of Shadow Garden who is disguising herself as Natsume. The novelist Rose is proud of all this time. After Rose left, Beta didn't expect Shadow to give his powers to Rose. This was something beyond her expectations. But whatever happens later, Beta remains loyal to the path of life that Shadow will go through later. I'll give you some extra information if you're confused about what Beta means. Shadow only gives his power to 7 shades or 7 shadows: Alpha, Beta, Delta, Eta, Epsilon, Gamma, and Zeta. Meanwhile, the other members, who probably numbered more than 100 or 600 people, were not given power directly by Sid, like 7 shadows. Due to this, Beta is surprised to learn that Sid gave his powers to someone other than 7 shadows. That's enough for the additional information. I'm not going to give out any more information, because this video could be over 20 or maybe 30 minutes if I go into detail about Rose and the 7 shadows from the light novel. By the way, the officers at the Epsilon show were shocked that a piano that big could be stolen without leaving a trace. Meanwhile, when Sid imagined how cool his previous words and performance were in front of Rose, Sid was suddenly surprised, because it turned out that Claire was still waiting for him in front of the apartment. Then Claire immediately took Sid to the room and strangled him. Claire is tired of waiting for Sid all day and knows that Sid doesn't care about her. Claire is also upset because Sid broke his promise to return to the village with Claire. Sid has broken many promises and thinks of them as trash. Claire choked Sid even harder because she loved her brother. Because Sid always breaks his promises, Claire said Sid should watch the War God Festival match at a special place. Claire gives Sid a VIP ticket, which can't be obtained easily. Then Sid asked, "Didn't you join this festival?" Upon hearing that question, Claire choked Sid even harder. Claire says she will take Rose's place at the festival later, so Sid should see Claire's match. Otherwise, Sid would receive another special treatment from Claire.
絶対に見てなさいよ。
The next day, Alexia visits Beta's place again, but unfortunately, Beta's maid says that Beta has already left there. However, Beta leaves a message to her maid that she will go abroad for a long time to collect data and information. Then Alexia sees that there is a document that contains information about the Oriana Kingdom. The main round of the God of War festival is about to begin. Of course, Sid complied with his sister's wishes to occupy the VIP seats that had been prepared. When Sid was escorted by the waiter to Claire's VIP seat number, Sid met Iris. Of course, Sid immediately introduces himself to Iris and wants to get out of there because he's misplaced. But Iris called Sid again because she knew that Claire had booked VIP tickets for her brother. Iris recognized Claire very well, and they trained together several times in the Midgar Kingdom. Even Iris plans to include Claire in the Midgar Knight Army after graduating from the academy later. Then Sid immediately sat in the VIP chair next to Iris and chatted with her. Iris apologized and thanked Sid about Zenon and for what happened at that time. Iris is very happy because Sid has become Alexia's boyfriend. Even Iris often saw that their relationship was very good at the academy. By the way, Iris also apologized while bowing her head to Sid. Of course, Sid is very upset because the main character in this story bows his head to Sid, a weak, cowardly, and stupid minor character. Sid explains that his relationship with Alexia is not what Iris had imagined. Sid and Alexia's activities are just like playing games. After all, Alexia frequently approached him every day back then. Iris says that Alexia can't come today, so Iris is worried that Sid will feel lonely without his girlfriend. Of course, Sid doesn't mind because his relationship with Alexia isn't close. Then Sid, Iris, and the high-ranking students started talking about this God of War festival. Iris said she was amazed by all the participants who entered this main round. But Iris was more interested in the abilities of Annerose, a former sword master. Then one of the students said he couldn't wait to see Iris compete. Iris could definitely become the champion in this God of War festival. Of course, with high self-confidence, Iris was aiming to become a champion. Then Sid asked them about Jimina. Iris says she hasn't seen the match in the previous round, so she doesn't know Jimina's ability. Then the two students said that they had seen Jimina's battle. According to them, Jimina is just a weak person and only relies on luck. His way of fighting was very amateurish, and he would not be able to become a champion in this God of War festival. Sid is very happy because other people can consider his Jimina character like that. Then Iris said that there was one girl she was curious about, and she was Beatrix. Beatrix was the first winner of the God of War festival, having the title of War Goddess, who had not appeared in public in a long time. Sid just found out that Beatrix was great and very famous in other people's eyes. Then Sid suddenly leaves there and says that he wants to poop. When Sid wanted to disguise himself as Jimina, he heard Beatrix's footsteps and powerful aura. But Sid didn't care about that and kept walking away. Then Beatrix called Sid because she thought Sid had ignored her. Sid pretends to have just noticed Beatrix and says he didn't mean it that way.
本当に
本当だよ。
そうか。
そうだよ。
してない？
してないよ。
Beatrix asked, "Haven't you met someone that looks like me?" Sid replies that he hasn't found the person Beatrix is looking for. Then Beatrix wished that she could meet someone similar to her here, but it was likely to fail because Beatrix didn't find any clues. Then Sid was curious, why did Beatrix bring so many McDonald's burgers? Beatrix replied that she hadn't bought too much on purpose. Beatrix also gave Sid one burger to reduce the number of her burgers. But instead, Sid did something like this.
はい。これあげる。
ありがとう。
Back to Iris. Suddenly Doem came and sat beside her. Iris said that the chair belonged to someone else, but Doem ignored what Iris said. After all, the conversation between the representatives of the Midgar and Oriana Kingdoms would be instructive to the students watching through these VIP seats. Then Iris asked, "Did you come here alone? How about your fiancé?" Doem said that the king of Oriana could not come today because his health was not good, so he would witness the main act of the God of War festival tomorrow with Doem. Doem also said that he was having a fight with his fiancée, but soon Rose would definitely return to the Oriana Kingdom. Then Doem asked, "Did your father not come today?" Iris replied that her father or the king of Midgar would be watching the God of War festival tomorrow. Then the next main round would begin. Jimina against Annerose. Doem just found out about Annerose now, and she has become the talk of many people. After the God of War festival, Doem might invite Annerose to enter the Oriana Kingdom later. Of course, Iris said that Annerose should enter the Kingdom of Midgar. Doem didn't expect that Iris still wanted to add more troops, whereas in the Kingdom of Midgar there are already many great knights. Iris replies that the Oriana Kingdom doesn't need qualified knights, because it already has an alliance with the Midgar Kingdom. After all, Iris and the Midgar Knights could reveal something Doem was hiding. Then they started talking about Jimina. According to Iris, Jimina looks weak because he has a body like that. Even so, Jimina's figure looks very strange. His eyes indicated he was very confident about winning the match. After hearing this, Doem said he would see how good Jimina was. On Annerose's side, she knew Jimina's speed was beyond reason. Even Jimina showed Annerose that he had weights on his hands. That means Jimina hasn't used his full potential yet. Because of that, Annerose had to attack Jimina faster so he wouldn't have a chance to attack. Then the match starts.
見合わされた。それも想定済み。負けはなくなる。
残像だ。
そこ！取った。なんて。
Annerose was badly defeated and suffered minor injuries. Doem admits that Jimina is a strong knight. Iris said that this was unbelievable. A strong person like Jimina has never been popular among the people. The sword technique that Jimina uses is very different, and Iris or Doem has never seen it. Jimina's sword swing is very beautiful. Iris remains confident that she can beat Jimina easily because Iris is stronger than Jimina. Iris knew that Jimina must be hiding something and pretended to be the weakest. But Iris will reveal the secret of Jimina's power, and she will definitely win over him. Then Iris said goodbye to Doem because she had a match with another knight. Meanwhile, Doem ordered his subordinate to investigate Jimina. Doem suspects Jimina is from Lawless City because he has never been seen in any city. Then Doem's subordinate asked, "Is there a possibility that Jimina is a member of Shadow Garden?" Doem says that the Shadow Garden is made up of women, and there is only one male, Shadow. After all, Shadow Garden wouldn't appear at the famous festival. They have no particular reason or purpose here.
詰める目は積んでおきたいが、奴は何者だ。
On the other hand, Annerose, whose injuries had been treated by the medical staff, came to Jimina directly. Annerose admits that her defeat and Jimina's strength are beyond reason. Long ago, Annerose left the kingdom of Begalta because she had extraordinary powers. But it turns out that there is something even greater than her. He is Jimina. Annerose was very satisfied with the previous matches because she could learn much from Jimina. Annerose also thanked and invited Jimina to become a knight in the kingdom of Begalta. Not only being a knight, but Annerose can prepare an even higher position for Jimina. Annerose was also curious, how could you become strong? Jimina said it had been a long time since he had had such an exciting match against Annerose. He was just a fool who threw everything away to become the strongest. Jimina turned down Annerose's offer because he wasn't fit to be in such a special place. After hearing that, Annerose says she will go to Oriana Kingdom tomorrow, so Jimina should meet her if he changes his mind. In Annerose's mind, she will practice sword technique even harder to become the strongest like Jimina. Thanks to him, Annerose was able to judge her own limits. The next match begins, and Iris easily and quickly defeats her opponent. Then Iris accidentally saw Beatrix, who was watching her match while eating a McDonald's burger. Because of that, Iris immediately ran to Beatrix, greeted her, and introduced herself to Beatrix. Then Beatrix responded to Iris like this.
食べる？はい。食べると元気が出る。
In the afternoon, Sid was very proud of himself. He managed to surprise and amaze everyone with Jimina's figure, especially when fighting Annerose. Annerose had brought Sid's delusional plan to near perfection. Sid has developed Jimina's character very well as the main character in his delusional storyline. Now, Sid has to think about the best ending to the storyline so it can be a perfect climax. Sid wants to target Iris because she is everyone's idol. Sid will also say some really cool lines after defeating Iris. Sid initially could create another story route in any episode he could imagine. But Sid has to prepare the plot perfectly and cool it first. Then when Sid returned to his apartment, something unexpected happened again.
私の試合も楽しんでくれたかしら。
おいおいおい、死んだわ僕。
どうか私に。
The story goes back to before the God of War festival started. Iris was training as usual around the Midgar Kingdom. Then flashback to when Iris was a child with the talent to be the strongest knight in the city of Midgar. Iris was everyone's pride because she possessed incredible magic power and swordsmanship. When Iris was a teenager, she was already a role model for everyone. They believe that the land of Midgar is always safe if there is the power of Iris. Iris also has a great responsibility as the first princess in the kingdom of Midgar. Back to the present, Iris was also annoyed with Alpha because she underestimated Iris's power. Even when the Midgar Academy was attacked by terrorists, Iris and her army couldn't enter or do anything. Iris had tried to talk about the Shadow Garden and the Diabolos cult to her father, but Iris' father didn't want to do anything and didn't take anyone's side. If Iris disobeyed her father's decision, it would mean that Iris was endangering this country, when the quarrel with the church and the sacred land is the same. Her father didn't want to take any action. The kingdom of Midgar didn't have the strength to fight against Shadow Garden and the Diabolos cult, so Iris had to obey her father's orders. Because of that, Iris would win the God of War festival to prove that she was the strongest knight. Iris also won't disappoint everyone proud of her for so long. She has a great responsibility for the kingdom of Midgar. By the way, Iris hasn't sided with anyone yet. She didn't side with Shadow Garden, nor did the Diabolos cult. I'm actually a little lazy to tell this character. It's too bad her way of thinking was strange due to her always being emotional or angry. Meanwhile, Alexia believed in Shadow Garden and wanted to eradicate the Diabolos cult since the development from the beginning of the episode after the kidnapping. The final round of the God of War festival would begin with Claire's match against another knight. Sid was neatly dressed and handsome, while drinking coffee from Gamma's company. I'll mention Gamma's company name now, because this has something to do with the storyline when the second season airs later. Gamma's company is Mitsugoshi, and all employees are Shadow Garden members. Meanwhile, Gamma disguised herself as Luna. Back to the story. Not long after, Iris came and sat next to Sid. Of course, Sid was annoyed because a character like Iris stood out too much with a minor character like Sid. Iris also started talking to Sid like a friend. She said she liked the smell of coffee from Mitsugoshi, but Iris didn't like this bitter coffee. Then Sid suggested adding sugar or milk to the coffee. The taste would be different, and Iris could like the taste. When Iris tries Sid's suggestion, not long after, Beatrix came to the VIP room but didn't want to give her sword to the maids and knights there. Because of that, Beatrix was not allowed to enter this room. Then Iris immediately approached Beatrix because she was the one who had invited Beatrix here. Of course, everyone was shocked because it was the first time seeing Beatrix's figure now. Then Beatrix and Iris sat beside Sid's chair, which really bothered him. Beatrix and Iris stand out too much and don't fit beside Sid. Then many people still wanted to chat and say hello to Beatrix. Beatrix also asked them about people who had similar faces to hers. However, they didn't know about it and changed the subject to the God of War festival. They were curious, was there any knight who caught Beatrix's attention? Then Beatrix answered their questions like this.
シド、きっと強くなる。
いや、なりませんから。
Of course, everyone was surprised that a weakling like Sid could catch Beatrix's attention. The previous two students also said that Sid's strength differed greatly from Claire's, like the earth and the sky. Then some people began to doubt, is this Beatrix really a real person? She looked like an ordinary person, and even judged that Sid would become stronger. In another VIP room, it turns out that Doem had indeed influenced King Oriana with a potion. He is a member of the Diabolos cult. Doem also ordered his servant to give the king perfume, so that no one would know the smell of the potion. Doem had made King Oriana a puppet to obey his orders. Even so, King Oriana could still be conscious and hear whatever the people around him were talking about. Then Doem said that if King Oriana had given him the key, Rose wouldn't have become like this. That key was extremely important to the Diabolos cult. I will explain the key details that Doem meant when the second season airs later. Then Doem and King Oriana started walking to attend the last round of today's festival. In Doem's mind, if Rose doesn't turn herself in, Doem will order King Oriana to kill King Midgar. That way, the Oriana Kingdom will collapse and no longer have any connection with the Midgar Kingdom. Doem will carry out this plan when Iris competes against Jimina later. Then Doem and King Oriana meet King Midgar with his guards. After that, they headed to the VIP place with special seats there. Doem is still worried about Jimina because there is no data or any identity regarding him. Because of that, Doem concluded that Jimina was a knight from Lawless City. The city is a mess, there is no proper ecosystem and many thugs or monsters. Jimina will be a threat to Doem because Jimina is a dangerous knight. Doem has also added other Diabolos cult troops. They hid in every city and sneaked into the God of War festival. Doem also realized Rose's movements at that time seemed to align with what Shadow Garden was doing. When Doem and King Oriana passed Beatrix's chair, Beatrix suddenly said there was a strong smell there. Of course, Doem panicked and immediately ordered the knights to restrain Beatrix now. But Iris calmed Doem down and introduced Beatrix to him. Doem is surprised that Beatrix is an elf born or raised from the blood of the hero Olivier. Then Beatrix apologized to Doem, and so did Doem. After King Oriana and King Midgar sat on the king's special seats, Doem was surprised that a great swordswoman had come to this festival. This is completely beyond Doem's expectations and plans. If Beatrix were here, Doem would not be able to kill King Midgar. Doem hopes Rose shows up before the festival ends, and Doem can carry out his plans smoothly again. When Claire and the other night match begins, Sid tells Iris and Beatrix that he wants to poop again. Of course, Doem gets suspicious when he sees Sid's behavior, but it's only then that Doem realizes that Sid is just a stupid guy, and there's nothing to worry about him. After Claire won her match, Iris went to the arena to fight Jimina. Many Midgar knights and servants supported Iris because she was the pride of the Midgar Kingdom. Not only them, but everyone in the land of Midgar. By the way, Sid always says he wants to poop because he wants to disguise himself as Jimina. In fact, many students refer to Sid as a pooping man, toilet man, etc. since the incident on the streets in episode 6. Then Iris and Jimina's match begins.
来ないのか。
今確かに切られた。まさか錯覚。ならばこの会場の全てが奴の剣の間合い。まさかビビってんじゃん。ざけんな、アイリス様だぞ。
さっきからアイリス様は何やってんだ。一人でフラフラフラフラ。
そんなことができるのは世界最強の。なぜ剣を持っていると。
On the other hand, Claire didn't find Sid in the VIP seats. Because of that, Claire searches for Sid all the way to town, and she runs into a disguised Rose. Yesterday, she wore Midgar Academy clothes to solve today's problem. When Rose arrived at the festival venue, she saw several members of the Diabolos cult who had been killed. Then Beta and the other members told Rose to continue her rebellion. Meanwhile, Shadow Garden will take care of the Diabolos cult army. Back to Iris and Jimina. Everything Iris experienced was just an illusion created by Jimina, and Iris was completely defeated without taking any attacks. Jimina's moves or magic will not be known by anyone except Beatrix and Doem. Of course, the King of Midgar and everyone else were disappointed to see this match. Beatrix was amazed by Jimina's strength and wanted to fight him now, while Doem was surprised because Jimina could beat Iris so easily. He had never seen the moves Jimina used. Even the strongest swordsman wouldn't be able to use it. He was worried that Jimina would get in the way of his plans today. Before long, Rose came to meet Doem and King Oriana. Of course, Doem was very happy to see Rose's arrival according to his plans. Then Rose said she wanted to apologize to King Oriana for doing so many things. Even Rose also apologized for what happened after this. As the princess of the Oriana Kingdom or the daughter of the King Oriana, Rose will follow the path she believes in next. Upon hearing that, King Oriana smiled and forgave Rose's actions. However, when King Oriana wanted to continue what he was saying, Doem was angry that King Oriana had not followed Doem's orders. Of course, Rose immediately stabs Doem again, but suddenly, Doem deliberately uses King Oriana to protect himself. Doem even accused Rose of deliberately killing King Oriana for Rose's selfishness in ruling the Oriana Kingdom. When Doem looked at Rose, it turned out that Rose intended to kill herself, but suddenly,
それが貴様の選択か。
あなたはまさか。
我が名はシャドウ。
スタイリッシュ盗賊スレイヤーさん。
え、
あなただったのですね。
Sid failed to get a cool moment in front of many people. Flashback to when Rose was a child being captured by bandits. She is saved by Sid, disguised in a burlap sack mask. Sid kills all the bandits there very brutally. Rose witnessed the killing firsthand and saw Sid's beautiful sword swing. After all the bandits are killed, Sid steals their money as usual and tells Rose to go home. Rose asked Sid, "Who are you?" Then Sid replied that Rose could call him Stylish Bandit Slayer. Back to the present. Rose didn't expect Shadow to be the Stylish Bandit Slayer. Rose admires Shadow for continuing to fight criminals despite his loneliness. Meanwhile, Rose wants to choose a shortcut through suicide to solve the problem. Rose was in a lot of pain and fear because this all happened so suddenly. Actually, Rose can still fight, but this life is very painful. Because of that, Rose chose to die rather than have to live like this. Shadow explains that Stylish Bandit Slayer was just a ghost kid who happened to be passing through the forest. Then Shadow used his cool words again. He ordered Rose to run from there and keep fighting because her life path did not end yet. After hearing that, Rose obeyed Shadow's orders, then ran away from the festival venue and warned the people there to leave here immediately. Doem immediately ordered the Diabolos cult army to go after Rose, but sadly, all of the Diabolos cult had already been killed by the members of Shadow Garden. Then Beatrix deliberately did Doem's orders because she wanted to fight Shadow. Of course, even though Shadow knows that Beatrix is not a criminal, Shadow still smiles because he can have fun today. King Midgar immediately ordered the knights to evacuate the citizens who were in the city. Doem's servants also say that Doem is running away alone to return to the Oriana Kingdom. The corpse of King Oriana has also been secured. It will be returned to the Oriana Kingdom after this chaos is over. Then the King of Midgar did nothing to handle the situation. He would oversee and prepare an even larger army to fight the Shadow Garden and the Diabolos cult. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Claire is still looking for Sid's whereabouts because she is worried about Sid's current condition. Then Rose managed to escape safely to a narrow street in the city. Of course, Rose was confused about how to solve the Oriana Kingdom's problems. But suddenly,
あなたには2つの選択肢がある。
Alpha appeared in front of Rose and gave her two choices. First, Rose fought the Diabolos cult alone with the power she now had. Second, joined Shadow Garden to fight them together. Alpha says that Shadow Garden is not focused on saving the Oriana Kingdom. The fate of the kingdom remains in Rose's hands alone. But if Rose could demonstrate her worth as a member of the Shadow Garden, they could help her kill the Diabolos cult troops there. Shadow Garden wouldn't act if Rose was still in her current state. Upon hearing this, Rose joined Shadow Garden and apologized to her father, who was already in heaven. This is the only way to save the Oriana Kingdom. By the way, Annerose is going to the Beatrix Kingdom, and she hopes to meet Jimina again someday. Back to Shadow and Beatrix's fight. Beatrix was surprised because Shadow was fast and had no openings to attack. Then their fight stopped for a moment, and Shadow still challenged Beatrix to fight him again. Not long after, Iris came to them carrying an ancient artifact sword belonging to the Kingdom of Midgar. Iris will use this sword because she wants to kill Shadow. Beatrix actually just wanted to fight Shadow alone. Beatrix's goal was different from Iris. Iris has a grudge against Shadow for causing chaos long ago. Then Shadow laughed because he saw that Iris was relying on the power of the artifact sword to fight against him. Shadow underestimated Iris because her pure power could not stand against Jimina's or Shadow's figure. Of course, Iris was furious and immediately activated the artifact sword, then slashed at Shadow. Of course, Shadow managed to dodge the attack and was very happy because there was additional entertainment, like the character Iris today. Then Beatrix and Iris started working together to defeat Shadow. Shadow changed his weapons to dual crowbars like in his previous world. He is proud of this tool because it can be used as an all-purpose weapon. Their fight continues, and Iris is confused about who Shadow really is. Shadow says that he is nobody. His name was only Shadow, and if anyone else had taken this name, they would have to be a fake. Then Beatrix introduced herself to Shadow. She felt that she had met Shadow before, but Shadow says that they never met. After all, Shadow would definitely remember someone else if that person was very strong. Iris and Beatrix were not worthy of being remembered for their mediocre strength. Then Sid would show them the power of a wizard, and the fierce battle resumed. Shadow says that fake or borrowed power will not be able to beat him, but he admitted that Beatrix's sword's technique was very close to Shadow Garden. Then Iris ordered Beatrix to kill Shadow. Iris will use any means so that Beatrix can have an opening to kill him. Upon hearing this, Sid challenged them, "Kill me if you can." Shadow manages to defeat Iris and Beatrix, but Iris still wants to fight Shadow because he has caused so much chaos, and Iris will never forgive him. The knights are heading there to capture Shadow, and Shadow will not be able to escape from here. The Kingdom of Midgar will become Shadow's enemy, because he is the villain behind the chaos of the Diabolos cult. After hearing that, Shadow responded to Iris' words like this. Shadow showed his true power in front of Iris and Beatrix. Shadow got angry and asked Iris, "What did I run away for? I can hollow out the sky, I can destroy the mainland, I can do anything. Then what's the point of me running away?" Then Iris and Beatrix fell silent. They didn't expect Shadow to have this overwhelming and beautiful power. Beatrix and Iris could never defeat Shadow. Then Iris asked Shadow, "If you have this much power, why don't you kill us?" Shadow replies that he has no interest in their lives. He will never kill them. "The only one we have to kill is our enemy," said Shadow. He warned Iris to quickly realize who the real enemy was. Then Shadow began to release his magic power. Shadow does nothing and cancels his magic. Iris was crying and upset because she didn't know what to do. Who is the real enemy, and what is their goal? A few weeks later, Beatrix wanders again to find her sister's whereabouts. Iris also accompanied Beatrix's departure at the station. Beatrix said that Iris didn't need to be burdened by all this, but Iris said she would still do it according to her pride as the princess of the Midgar Kingdom. When Beatrix's train left for another city, Beatrix was happy because she had such a cool battle with Shadow at that time. Beatrix wanted to train harder to fight Shadow again if there was another chance. At the Shadow Garden base, Nu and Beta are in awe of Shadow. They learn the news that Shadow is still a fugitive in the Kingdom of Midgar, but they allege that Shadow was a member of the Diabolos cult and named him the Demon Shadow. The news also said that Princess Iris and Beatrix managed to make Shadow escape and secure the city. Not only Beta and Nu, but all Shadow Garden members admire Shadow. He baited the Midgar Kingdom to keep them from interfering in the affairs of the Oriana Kingdom. The Midgar Kingdom is now busy looking for Shadow's whereabouts. Nu also said that Etta was developing a communication technology to contact the center of the Shadow Garden headquarters. Of course, this technology is sourced from Shadow. The other Shadow Garden members will also carry out the next mission. They would order some of the members to investigate Lawless City, a strange and very chaotic place. Meanwhile, Gamma is still focused on developing Mitsugoshi's business. On the other hand, Sid and Jaga are going to the Midgar Academy, which has been renovated thanks to Mitsugoshi's funding. Then Sid is curious, where is Hiyoro? He was nowhere to be seen in the apartment. Jaga says that Hiyoro is working somewhere to earn a lot of money. This is the fate of Hiyoro now, and there is Zeta, traveling as usual on a mission. Back to Jaga and Sid. Jaga had the chance to see the power of the Demon Shadow, which was very beautiful in the city at that time. Even Jaga wanted to feel the magic aura directly inside the circle. After hearing the word the Demon Shadow, Sid realized that his actions were too exaggerated and stood out in the eyes of others. Well, again, Sid had no idea what was going on. Even he didn't intend to provoke the Midgar Kingdom like Nu and Beta had said. On the other hand, Doem reported to his superior, one of the people who occupied the 9th seat of the night rounds in the Diabolos cult. Doem had failed to carry out his plan. But Rose will not be able to escape this problem. She would definitely return to the Oriana Kingdom to fix the chaotic situation here. So Doem's superior need not worry and must entrust Doem's next plans. Then Doem's superior said that Doem must not let him down. I apologize for not mentioning the name of Doem's superior, as this has something to do with later in Season 2, and I don't want to spoil things too much. If you read the novel or manga The Eminence in Shadow, I'm sure you know this person's name. Several days later, Alpha took Rose to the Abyss Woods, located far east of the country of Midgar. Alpha explained that this forest belonged to one of the legendary monsters, the Mist Dragon, who had been defeated by Shadow. But the Mist Dragon was not killed and made a promise to Shadow and 7 Shadows. The Mist Dragon gives the ancient capital that was once the center of the Midgar country named Alexandria. In the past, this city was destroyed by the Mist Dragon, but now the Mist Dragon will protect the city in the Abyss Woods. The mists that spread across the Abyss Woods are the Mist Dragon's breath as the first defense. If many foreigners came there suspiciously, they would be killed instantly by the Mist Dragon. Rose also asked, is Shadow the leader of the Shadow Garden organization? Who's he? Alpha replied that she would tell Rose someday when Rose trusted Shadow Garden. But Alpha was sure Rose would know Shadow's identity with her own eyes. Then they arrived at the city of Alexandria, the main headquarters of Shadow Garden, which had been operating behind the scenes for a long time. Rose knew the name of this ancient city because she had read about it. She also saw many plants there, which was the first time Rose had seen them. Alpha said it was the main ingredient for making chocolate, and Rose would also be working on this business with Shadow Garden. Of course, Rose was surprised because Mitsugoshi was a company developed by Shadow Garden. Only the Mitsugoshi company can make chocolate, and no other company can compete. When Rose and Alpha entered the castle, Alpha approached a 20-year-old elf girl named Lambda. Alpha told her to train Rose during the Shadow Garden training camp. Then Alpha said goodbye to Rose because she wanted to carry out the next mission. Lambda immediately called the numbers 664 and 665. From now on, Rose would team up with them. Lambda explains to Rose that she is already a Shadow Garden member named 666. Rose must discard her name, title, or whatever and leave the name 666 as a new Shadow Garden member. Rose's past must also be thrown away so she can become a great organization member. Then Lambda immediately stripped Rose naked, cut her hair, and gave her a slime bodysuit. 665 and 664 will teach Rose how to use and control the uniform. Then Rose saw the McDonald's burger wrap that Sid gave her. She really can't let go of her past when she was with Sid. Rose loves him very much and wants to marry Sid. However, when Rose was thinking about that, Lambda immediately tore open the McDonald's wrapper. Rose burst into tears because she was unwilling to throw away the memories of the person she loved. On the other hand, Shadow is still playing the piano in the royal city's underground aqueduct. Shadow's goals and all desires in the previous world were finally accomplished in this world. He felt happy because no one could beat him. Then Shadow's disease, Chunibyo, kicks in, and Shadow says his usual cool stuff again. Shadow Garden only does and fights when necessary. Eradicate the evil behind the scenes without being noticed by anyone. After Shadow finished playing the piano, he thought that the storyline he had made was enough to end there. He will create new storylines in his delusions so he can have fun as a Chunibyo. On the other hand, news about the demon Shadow in the Midgar Kingdom has also been seen by someone. The news also said Rose had killed her father, and the Oriana Kingdom was in chaos. Rose's whereabouts disappeared and are still being searched by the Oriana Knights. It turned out that the one who saw the news was Sherry.
私が必ず